Do you ever feel like you overthink your March Madness brackets?
Our objective today is to make it impossible to overthink with a blind picking process where we don't know the seeds, the stats, or anything that could aid us in our decision making process. We'll be going solely based on our gut instincts and initial reactions.
And when the tourney is all said and done, we'll come back to this video to see which one of us had the better basketball instincts.
I'm almost positive Iowa State would be a 2 seed, which means that the San Diego State matchup wasn't. And this is. So I think what we're picking right now is
Okay, for your first matchup in the East Division, you have FAU and Northwestern.
that does not sound like a real matchup. I know that FAU might be overrated this year, but I think they had some good wins early on, and Northwestern is probably like a 13 loss Big Ten team. So I'm going to go with FAU.
My first reaction is that FAU is definitely not the team they were last year, and I have no idea what Northwestern's record is or what seed they could be. I'll go Northwestern for that.
Just had to be different. First game.
Okay,
Wow.
your second matchup for the East Division is San Diego State versus UAB.
UAB in the American, which wasn't great. Who are they playing?
San Diego State.
San Diego State. Ooh. San Diego State made it to the championship last year, right? Yeah, I'll go San Diego State.
Okay, Casey.
I'm also going San Diego State. No explanation.
All right, your third matchup of the East is Auburn versus Yale.
You know, this is one where I feel like Auburn could go really far in the tournament, and I'm going to pick Auburn in this game, and then Yale is just going to hit 17 threes in the game and win, but I am going to stick with Auburn.
Yeah, I feel like an Ivy League school seems to always get a win. But yeah, I think I'll play it safe and go Auburn.
All right, your next game is UConn versus Stetson.
Hey, shout out to Donnie Jones at Stetson. Great job making the tournament, but I think UConn's going to win this game by 30.
I'm assuming that UConn is a 1 seed, and there have been some 1 seeds upset 16 seeds, but yeah, I'll just go UConn.
Your next matchup is BYU versus Duquesne.
I saw Duquesne play in person this year, and they did really well in their conference tournament, so I'm picking Duquesne.
Ooh. I don't remember. I don't even remember what conference Duquesne is in, but I'm gonna go with BYU. I don't want to pick too many Big 12 teams, but I'm gonna go with them in this one.
All right, your next matchup is Iowa State versus South Dakota State.
Wow. Okay, so normally I would pick this. I feel like this is probably a 2-15 matchup, and I know nothing about North Dakota State at all. Wait, did you say North Dakota State or South Dakota State?
South.
Oh gosh. Okay, well I know even less about them. So
I know even less about South Dakota State.
I am going to, because of that, I'm just gonna play it safe and pick Iowa State.
It's weird when it comes to the tournament how all these games you just want to pick the smaller conference team. Like it's just so easy to envision them South Dakota State winning. But I agree, the safe bet is Iowa State.
Up next, we have Washington State versus Drake.
For no reason, I'm gonna go Drake.
I just can't. Okay, I'm just gonna theorize that this is maybe like a 13-4 matchup. I don't know how Washington State would get that high of a seed, so I'm also gonna go Drake. Drake's. You know what, Matt? Drake. I don't know what the matchups were on like right now, how they're lining up, but Drake sounds like a Sweet 16 team to me just because of their name.
Okay, wrapping up the East Division, we have Morehead State versus Illinois.
I know nothing about these two teams. Morehead State probably just doesn't have it in them. So I'm gonna stick with the higher seed on this one and go Illinois.
Tell me who. Okay, Morehead State and Illinois.
Yeah, your options. Just to be clear, Matt, your options are Morehead State or Illinois.
Yes, Morehead State or Illinois. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Do you need me to be 3, 2, 1?
No. I'm gonna go Illinois.
Okay. That was hard. That was hard to get out apparently.
You know, with us not knowing the seeds, I feel like we are going to pick no upsets.
Possible. But we should know the mid-majors that are decent. I would think. The upsets that we'll probably miss are the ones like South Dakota State, where they're probably a 14 seed, and they probably have some good metrics and things that we don't know about. But for the most part, I feel like the good mid majors like James Madison or somebody like that, we will probably still pick them just because we know who they are.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We're only through one region so far.
Up next in the West region, we have North Carolina versus either Howard or Wagner.
I'll have to go UNC.
Tar Heels, baby.
Our next matchup in this region is St. Mary's versus Grand Canyon.
Oh, okay. I know. Okay, I know a little bit about this one. I know St. Mary's beat Gonzaga at least once this year, and I'm pretty sure they won their conference.
Yeah, they did.
So, which doesn't mean anything, but I don't know much about Grand Canyon other than that their student section is really awesome, and I don't think they're going to win on that merit alone. So I'm going to stick with St. Mary's on this one.
Yeah, I think St. Mary's is going to go to the Sweet 16.
Oh. Now, how would you know that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I would not know
All right.
that, but I just feel it.
Our next matchup is Alabama versus Charleston.
I'll go Alabama.
Oh man. Okay. This one to me has upset written all over it, and it's not just because I want to. It's Alabama, but the College of Charleston. I think last year they went 31-3, so I don't know what they went this year. And if you remember, yeah. They were like a highly touted mid-major last year, and they got a horrible first-round matchup and lost by, I think it was a close game. I just can't remember who they played. But give me the College of Charleston.
Okay, so your next matchup is Michigan State versus Mississippi State.
I have this rule where I really don't pick against Tom Izzo in the tournament unless I absolutely have to. So, Michigan State.
This is an interesting game. A Big Ten school and an SEC school playing each other in the first round. Seems not very common. Maybe it is, but it just seems like it's not because you have two big schools playing each other early. Michigan State just did not have a super good year. I don't know their record, but I'm pretty sure it's very, very below average for them. I'll probably go Michigan State, but they're going to lose in the second round.
Now we have Clemson versus New Mexico.
I know nothing about Clemson. I haven't heard one thing about Clemson the entire season, so New Mexico.
I'm also going New Mexico because, I mean, when you think of Clemson, I feel like basketball is never mentioned. If Clemson wins, screw it, but New Mexico.
Up next, we have Nevada versus Dayton.
I do know that Dayton lost in their conference tournament. Okay. So I think Nevada was the other option. I'm gonna go with Nevada.
I don't know what it is about Dayton in the tournament. It's just I feel like they have to get a win or two. But Nevada, I don't know their record, but I know the Mountain West has a lot of good teams. I will go, just for the fun of it, Dayton.
Next up, we have Arizona versus Long Beach State.
Arizona.
Yeah, so this one's really tough. Arizona.
And last for the West region, we have Colgate versus Baylor.
Ooh. See, we talked about this earlier, Matt. You said, I feel like we're not going to pick upsets because we don't know the seeds. And I would venture to say that this is probably a 13-4 matchup. And you know that one of the 3 to 5 seeded Big 12 teams always gets bounced by someone like Colgate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to? I don't know the rest of the brackets, so I could be doing this a little bit too early. But give me Colgate over Baylor.
Colgate. It just sounds like a team that would beat Baylor, does it not? Like
it does. That's what I'm saying. Like it. I know nothing about Colgate. Could be literally like 22-14 for all I know, and have sucked and just managed to win their conference. But it does just sound like a team that would beat Baylor.
And sounds like a toothpaste brand.
It is a toothpaste brand.
Exactly. I'll take Colgate.
All right, that wrapped up the West Division. We're moving on to nope, nope. It's all the same to me. Just more work for Casey. Okay.
I'm leaving that one in.
Just say West.
All right, we're moving on from the West and we are moving down south. Your first matchup is Nebraska versus Texas A&M.
Wow. Okay. That's okay. That definitely is either an 8-9 or 7-10. Wow. I know nothing about either these. Okay, this is okay. Let me just. I'll make the bold statement. This is coming down to the final shot. As far as who wins, give me Nebraska.
Yeah, I've never once in my life seen on TV, on social media, YouTube, anything. I've never seen a Nebraska basketball game or highlight in my life. So I'll go Texas A&M.
All right, moving on, boys.
Gig 'em.
We have Duke versus Vermont.
Duke.
Ooh, see, Matt's a Duke homer, but this is one where I could see the upset. But I'm gonna stick with Duke.
All right, we have James Madison versus Wisconsin.
JMU.
Yeah.
No? Okay, that's who I'm going with.
I don't like to cheer for them, to be honest, but I guess it would be good for as a Marshall fan. But yeah, I think JMU's gonna win.
All right, our next one's a big matchup. We've got Longwood versus Houston.
That's gonna have to be the Cougars.
Yeah,
Houston.
I love the build up. But I'm also going with Houston.
Moving on, we have NC State versus Texas Tech.
Well, I know NC State only got in because they won their conference tournament, so I am going to go with Texas Tech, unfortunately.
NC State is America's team right now. They are hot. Their coach was supposed to be fired last Monday, and then he won 5 straight games and won the ACC, and now they're in the tournament, and they have that center that looks like a defensive lineman, and they're gonna win.
You're right. Man.
Too late. Up next, we have Western Kentucky versus Marquette.
Western Kentucky won Conference USA, which is not a very good conference. Anyway, Western Kentucky, their record's not even any good. They went like 8-8 in Conference USA, I think. So Marquette. Also,
Yeah.
before you start, Marquette, because the 2 greatest basketball players of all time played there, Dwayne Wade and Jimmy Butler. So
I believe Shaka Smart is at Marquette, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to go with Marquette, but I am nervous about this one because, anytime you see a American or Big East team, I feel like in that range, they're very, especially against Western Kentucky, I feel like Western Kentucky is a tournament team. But I'm going to go with Marquette.
Up next, we have Florida versus either Boise State or Colorado.
Give me the Broncos of Boise State in the play-in game and against Florida.
wow, I agree. Boise in the play-in game, but Boise versus Florida. I mean, that is tough. That is a tough draw for Boise.
But handlocked and snapped his leg.
He did.
So they're without their starting center. I think that gives Boise the momentum that they need. Or Colorado, for that matter.
Okay, Boise in the play-in game, Florida in the first round.
All right, that wraps up that region. We are moving on to the Midwest. Starting out in the Midwest, we have Samford versus Kansas.
Kansas got bounced early in the Big 12 tournament, didn't they?
First game, yeah.
Yeah, but I think they'll handle Samford. Is that who you said?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Kansas.
I tried to keep myself away from the bracket, but when you get push notifications that Kansas's starting center is out for the tournament, And he's also their leading scorer, I guess. Actually, I don't know that he's their center. It just said leading scorer is out. And I was told by my Big 12 friends that without him and the other guy that was hurt, that they are nothing. I don't know how true that is, but give me Samford.
Wow.
All right. Next, we have Gonzaga versus McNeese.
I just feel like Gonzaga has been successful in the tournament for too long. And for that reason, I'm going to take McNeese, however you say their name. I'm going to take them over Gonzaga.
No, Gonzaga is definitely not the team that we are used to seeing. They are not nearly as good as they normally are. Yeah, I can't see McNeese State winning a tournament game over Gonzaga, so I will take the Zags.
Next up, we have TCU versus Utah State.
You know, Marshall played Utah State and they lost, but they were with them the whole game, so TCU can surely beat Utah State.
Big 12's overrated. Give me Utah State.
Next, we have Purdue versus Grambling State or Montana State.
Last year, Purdue got bounced in the first round. They were a 1 seed and they lost to Fairleigh Dickinson. It's not happening again. Purdue.
Yeah, I've not obviously been looking a lot at the bracket, but I have seen enough to know that a lot of people are picking Purdue to go all the way or at least make the Final Four. I don't think Purdue is as good as everybody thinks they are, and I don't think they'll make it all the way. But yes, they're not going to lose to either of the Montana State or Grambling, so Purdue.
And on that thought though, Matt, the last team, it's not common to see a 1 seed lose to a 16 seed. It's only happened twice. And the only other time that it happened, which is a lot of data to work with, so this is a valid point of view on the whole thing. The last time it happened to Virginia, they went on to win the national championship the next season.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now we have Tennessee versus St. Peter's.
Didn't they go far?
Oh, yeah, they did as a 15 seed last year, I think.
Ooh, I know people are big on Tennessee who also lost in the conference tournament. Let's go with St. Pete again. I think they still got some magic left.
Wow. I'm going to go with Tennessee.
Yeah, that's probably smarter.
Up next, we have a playing game. We have Texas versus either UVA or Colorado State.
I'm going to stick with the trend here, and I'm going to go with the winner of UVA and Colorado State in that game because Virginia is just a beatable team with their defense. They don't know how to play offense. They only know how to play defense.
Okay, I saw a tweet that was like when a high-powered, fast-paced, put up a lot of points team plays against a team like Virginia, the team like Virginia wins like 80-something% of the time. I did not keep up with the Big 12 very much this year, so I don't know how good Texas is. I really have no idea. So sure, Colorado State.
Now we have Akron versus Creighton.
Akron should not have even won their conference. They Kent State just handed them the win at the end of the game. So I will go. I don't remember who they're playing.
Creighton.
I will go with Creighton.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go Creighton in this one. I feel like they've got a chance to take this one deep. So I will stick with the whatever they're called, the Blue Jays, I believe.
Blue something.
They're blue something.
Okay, you've got Oregon and South Carolina.
Oh wow, actually, Oregon.
Yeah, when I hear South Carolina, I think of their women's team. So I know nothing about their men's team. So Oregon.
Man, I thought Oregon was better, but surely this has got to be an 8-9 matchup. I thought Oregon was better than that last time I checked, but
I have no idea.
We have one missed matchup from the South Region, Kentucky versus Oakland.
Kentucky.
Not so fast. Yeah, Kentucky.
Okay.
All right, that wraps up the round of 64.
All right, go ahead. Start us off with the round of 32.
Okay, so your first game in the round of 32, you all had different picks. So Casey, Your first matchup is UConn versus FAU.
Oh, okay. Well, this one's pretty easy. I'm gonna go with the Yukon Huskies.
And Matt, you have UConn versus Northwestern.
I will also go with UConn.
Next game, you all have matching. We have San Diego State versus Auburn.
Well, this has 7-2 upset written all over it, doesn't it, Matt?
It sure does.
Maybe you're not thinking along the same lines. Auburn is a team that people speak very highly of, and I feel like they're like, Auburn's going to go to the Final Four, or at least Elite Eight. I just don't see that happening. And I don't remember any other the teams in this part of the bracket, so I'm going to go San Diego State for the upset early on.
Go Aztecs.
The next game, Casey, you have BYU versus Illinois.
BYU, you said BYU versus Illinois?
Yep.
Oh, I'm gonna stick with this is the one Big 12 team I might stick with for a little bit. So I'm gonna go BYU.
And Matt, you have Duquesne versus Illinois.
I forgot I picked Duquesne over BYU, didn't I? You know, why not? Let's go Duquesne to the Sweet 16.
And the last matchup we have in the East region is Drake and Iowa State.
Matt, do you want to take this one first?
Let's go Drake.
Just to be clear, you said Drake, right?
Drake, yes.
I know I said earlier that Drake just sounds like a Sweet 16 team, but I'm almost positive Iowa State would be a 2 seed, which means that the San Diego State matchup wasn't, and this is. So I think what we're picking right now is I don't know what Drake would be. It doesn't matter. See, I'm getting in my head. Okay. I'm sticking with my guns. Drake.
Moving on to the West region, we have a matchup between North Carolina and Michigan State.
Ooh. Hey, now that's interesting.
That is a classic
yeah.
blue blood college basketball game.
I like that. That'll be worth watching. However, I do believe that the Tar Heels will pull it off.
Yes, UNC is much better than Michigan State. That obviously doesn't mean they'll win.
Tom Izzo.
Surely they will.
Tom Izzo he's one of those coaches that could have a bad regular season and take a 11 seed to the Final Four. And in fact, I think he has done that.
Probably.
All right. Just to clarify, Matt, you chose UNC too?
Yes, UNC.
Our next matchup, Casey, you had St. Mary's versus Charleston.
Man, I actually don't like that I picked either. Like, I don't like that matchup. So can I go back and make changes? I think the safe pick here is to just go with St. Mary's. So St. Mary's.
And Matt, you have St. Mary's versus Alabama.
This one is tough because I know Alabama is not as good as they were last year, obviously. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. I have Duquesne and Drake in the Sweet 16. I feel like I can't have St. Mary's in there too. And I just feel like Alabama's not that good. I have no I don't know if they are or aren't, but sure, St. Mary's.
All right, so your next matchup is New Mexico versus Colgate.
Oh, what have we done with some of these matchups, dude?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and say I'm gonna go with New Mexico.
I will also be going with New Mexico, but if Toothpaste makes it to the Sweet 16, props to them.
Okay, the final games in the West region, you all had different teams here. Casey, you have Nevada versus Arizona.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Nevada won, but I am going to go safely, hopefully, with Arizona on this one.
And Matt, you have Dayton versus Arizona.
I will also go with Arizona.
Okay, that wraps up the West region. Moving on to the South. Your first game, Casey. You have Houston versus Nebraska.
Houston versus Nebraska. Okay, there's literally nothing to Houston.
And Matt, you have Houston versus Texas A&M.
Ooh, Houston.
Your next game, you all have the same picks. You both have James Madison versus Duke.
Go ahead, Matt.
Duke.
Man, I want to pick JMU over Duke so bad. Oh my gosh.
You know, if Duke was up against another 12, 13, 14 seed, I might pick against them, but no, I'm picking Duke here.
I am leaning James Madison. This could be a college game day situation where everybody and their brother and their mother and their siblings and whatever are picking them over Wisconsin in the first round. So they're probably going to lose to Wisconsin in the first round. However, go Sunbelt. So I'm going to say JMU.
Okay, your next matchup, Casey, is Texas Tech versus Kentucky.
Okay, I think I'm gonna go with Kentucky on this one, and I don't have a reason, but I'm just gonna pick them.
And Matt, you have NC State versus Kentucky.
NC State just took down Duke and UNC, so they can definitely take down Kentucky. But eventually their but their hot streak has to come to an end, you would think. But I will play it safe, go with Kentucky.
And wrapping up the South region, Casey, your next matchup is Marquette versus Boise or Colorado.
I do think at some point Boise's efforts are going to fall short, and if not Boise, then Colorado. So I think I'm gonna go Marquette.
And Matt, you have Florida versus Marquette.
If I had more information about these two teams, I could maybe make a much better guess. I know nothing at all about Marquette this year. I know a little bit about Florida. For Micah Henlock, then I'll say Florida.
Okay, that wraps up the South region. We're going to move on to the Midwest where you will have different first matchups. We'll start with Casey. You have Purdue versus Utah State.
Oh, okay. So this is like a 1-8 or a 1-9 matchup, and Purdue could go early. I'm gonna give them an extra week though. Purdue to the Sweet 16, please.
And Matt, you have Purdue versus TCU.
Yeah, I'll go Purdue.
All right, you all have very different picks on this next game. Casey, you have McNeese versus Samford.
Oh no! Oh no! Okay. I mean, the likelihood has got to be with McNeese State here, so that's what I'm gonna go with.
And Matt, you have Gonzaga versus Kansas.
Those are two very different games. Well, I feel like Kansas had a good year. I'll go Kansas.
This next game, you'll have the same picks. We have Oregon versus Creighton.
Creighton.
I want to go Creighton, but I'm just thinking of my Sweet 16 in my head, and it's all mid-majors.
Creighton is
They're
not
the
a
Big East.
mid-major.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, in my head, I view the Big East as a mid-major.
Oh, I do too, believe me, but they don't. So
Yeah. Creighton.
All right, wrapping up the Midwest, we have two different matchups. Casey, you have Tennessee versus either UVA or Colorado State.
I feel like Colorado State could go pretty far. I mean, not like far, but like this far. However, I feel like Tennessee's due for a run in the tournament, so I'm gonna go Tennessee.
And Matt, you have St. Peter's versus either UVA or Colorado State.
Man. Colorado State.
All right, that wraps up the round of 32. Moving on to the Sweet 16, you have the same first matchup. We have
All
UConn
right.
versus San Diego State.
Oh, a rematch of the national championship game from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say real quick, when she is telling us the matchups in the round of 32, it's cracking me up because Matt, if we weren't doing this blindly, we would not have some of these teams playing against each other in the round of 32. But I think that's what makes this fun. So, anyways, San Diego State versus UConn. UConn's got to run in them. I think San Diego State's not what they were last year, so I'm gonna go with UConn.
For whatever reason, I want to pick UConn to lose here soon, but I don't think this is the game, so I will stick with UConn here.
Up next, we have two different matchups. Casey, you have BYU versus Drake.
Freak! Who did I have Drake beating in the first round?
Yeah, don't know.
Fantastic. BYU.
And Matt, you have Duquesne versus Drake.
Okay, the Duquesne, they're the Dukes, right? Duquesne's luck is running out here, so I'll go with Drake.
You all have the same matchup starting out in the West Region. We have North Carolina versus St. Mary's.
We'll go North Carolina.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go UNC just in case St. Mary's loses early on.
And your second matchup in the West Region is also the same. You have New Mexico and Arizona.
You know, I didn't want Arizona to get this far, but I don't think that New Mexico would beat them, so I'm going to stick with Arizona.
I don't know enough about Arizona this year. Is it accurate to say they're not as good as recent years?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I don't know.
I don't know. I want to pick against them because I haven't heard much about them all year. But
Okay,
but
go
I
for it,
agree
man.
with that. Like I can't see them beating a Nevada. Is that who it was?
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
Oh, well, now that might change everything.
No, I'm gonna go Arizona.
All right, your first game in the South Region, you all had different picks. Casey, you have Houston versus JMU.
Houston versus JMU. Houston.
And Matt, you have Houston versus Duke.
Houston's going down. Duke is going to the Elite Eight.
You know what though? I actually agree. If I had those two choices in that round, I would probably make the same decision.
Casey, your next game is Kentucky versus Marquette.
So I'm assuming we've got a 2 versus 3 here, and I don't know which one is which, but that doesn't matter. I will go with UK.
And Matt, your matchup is Kentucky versus Florida.
Kentucky versus Florida. So they've played already, and I don't know if I can tell you what those results would be, but I'll go Kentucky.
All right. Wrapping us up, we're going to go to the Midwest. And Casey, you had Purdue versus McNeese.
Okay, well, I don't even feel like I needed to switch my camera over for this one because obviously I'm going to go Purdue.
And Matt, you have Purdue versus Kansas.
Woohoo! I said I didn't think Purdue was going to make it to the Final Four. Said they were going to lose at some point. Why not let it be right here? Kansas.
Go Sanford. I hope, hey, it's better for me in this little challenge that we're doing if Sanford beats Kansas. So, fingers crossed.
All right, you all had different picks for your final game of the Sweet 16. Casey, you had Creighton versus Tennessee.
You know, if I'm gonna ride with Creighton to this point, I feel like, but man, what you're about to tell me in the next round is that the winner of this game plays Purdue, I assume. So, so basically, I'm picking a Final Four team here because I don't want to take Purdue to the Final Four either, like Matt said. So give me Creighton.
And Matt, your last matchup of the Sweet 16 is Creighton versus either UVA or Colorado State.
How do I still have UVA in Colorado State? Jeez, Creighton in the Elite Eight. Sure, Creighton.
The first game of the Elite Eight for Casey is UConn versus BYU.
You know, my love for BYU comes to an end. I'm going with UConn on this one.
And Matt, you have UConn versus Drake.
Yeah. Once again, it's just these top seeded teams. I'm just so like I want to say they're all gonna lose for some reason, but UConn will not lose to Drake.
Good pick.
Thanks.
You all have the same teams winning out in the West region. So for this next game, you have North Carolina versus Arizona.
I guess North Carolina.
I'm in agreement. I don't have reason. Just you and go Tar Heels.
The two teams in the South region for Casey are Houston and Kentucky.
Wow. If we get to this point, I think it'll be a great matchup. My gut tells me that neither of these teams are going to make it to this point, but that's where apparently my gut's also telling me that they are going to make it to this point because I have them here. So I will go with Houston.
And Matt, you have Duke versus Kentucky.
Oh boy. I don't know if I can pick Kentucky in this situation. I will stick with Duke.
I like that. I like that. If Duke makes it to the Elite Eight, you might as well take them to the Final Four.
All right, Casey, in the Midwest, you have Purdue and Creighton.
Well, said it last time, and I'll say it again. I don't think Purdue's making it to the Final Four, so I am going to test my luck with whatever seed Creighton is, and I will put them in the Final Four.
And Matt, you have Kansas versus Creighton.
I will choose Kansas.
Okay, that wraps up the Elite Eight. We're now on to the Final Four. You all have a matching first game in the Final Four. You have UConn versus North Carolina.
Oh, no. Okay. Getting real now, Matt. If both of these teams are there, who are you taking?
For only one reason, I do not believe we will have a repeat back-to-back champion. So, I pick UNC.
Well, before you said that, my pick was UConn. Because I think my Final Four, if I remember correctly, is UConn, North Carolina, and then Houston and Creighton. So I'm gonna go with UConn.
All right, and for game number 2, Casey, you have Houston and Creighton.
Yeah, sorry, Creighton. This is where it ends. I'm gonna go Houston here.
And Matt, you have Duke and Kansas.
Man.
Hmm.
Man. Well, it looks like we're having the game in the national championship. I'm picking
That would be
Duke
crazy
to take on UNC.
Oh my goodness. I mean, listen, your Final Four with Duke and Kansas, that's one where like if you just looked at it right now, people would probably say that's crazy. But in 2 weeks, everybody might be looking at you like you're a genius.
Just to be clear, you picked Duke, right?
I picked Duke.
He did pick Duke.
Casey, your national championship teams are UConn and Houston.
She said that like I'm wrong. Okay. Listen, if UConn gets to this point, I think they will repeat. I don't know that they will get to this point, but for whatever reason, that's how the bracket has worked out. So I am going to pick UConn to repeat as national champions, and as a tiebreaker, the total points between the two teams. Let's go 139.
All right, and Matt, your national championship teams are North Carolina and Duke.
I think UNC has beat Duke both times this year. And it's
that
hard to beat a team 3 times. But I just think UNC has Duke's number this year. And I think they're going to win it all. So UNC.
And Matt, how many total points?
We're doing total points.
Yes, total points will be scored.
140.
Oh.
Hey, all right, okay.
Wait, what did you say?
I said 139. Nice.
I was going to say 138. Look, I was doing it in my head. 138.
Then why'd you say 140?
I said 140 just because I thought there might be a basket or free throw.
Yeah. Wow. One more basket than 138. That's crazy. All right. I'm just happy that we had one region that kind of stayed the same, but obviously we went completely different paths on one side of the bracket. So
yeah,
this should be interesting.
I think we're both going to be terribly, terribly wrong.
All right, so Matt, at the end of the NCAA tournament, we will revisit this video, and whichever one of us has the most points between all of the rounds will get this trophy. Okay, I'm gonna write the winner's name right there on that trophy, and put it up on my shelf behind me. And you or I won will live in NCAA tournament infamy.
Wow. I wish you would have shown me that before. I would have changed all of my picks.